Hey guys, Davita here, and I'm back again to help you with the persona work. So this part 5 is going to be about how to transform your personas. So if you did the work that I mentioned in our last video, then you'll have a list of your personas. You will know what they look like, you will know their psychological age, you will know their fears and their belief systems and their goals and their desires. And these are very, very powerful sets of information you have now. But how do we transform them? Because we can have awareness of a persona, but still feel extremely drawn into its story. So let's take, for example, the first persona we have is the little version of you, the inner child. So you give that a name. Bob, Sam, David, whatever you want to call your inner child persona. And this part of you is really scared of being abandoned in a relationship. And the goal this part of you has is to be loved and to be safe. And the fear is being left by someone they love. And the behaviors they have to get this is by getting into codependent relationships where someone's very controlling or possessive of them, but at least they feel like they will not be left. Now, how do we work with this persona? So it's similar to the inner child work, but basically here are some tips on working with this. You work with the persona on where did you get the story from? Where do you get the story that you are not lovable and that you're going to be left? So we go back to the childhood, we look at the origin of the story, and then we say, okay, how can we change this story? And the way we can change the story is by saying, okay, what about through a wise and compassionate adult perspective? Did you really get abandoned, or were there just difficulties between your parents at the time? They had their own issues, their own challenges, and they were just not able to be the person that you needed at the time. So you weren't really abandoned, you were just unable to receive the kind of connection you wanted. But you are loved now, you are safe now, you're protected now. And the story doesn't serve you anymore, because the story just leads to you feeling more and more abandoned. It leads to you shutting people out, or leads to you being too dependent, too needy, and actually sabotages all your relationships. So you basically have a conversation with this persona where you talk to them in a loving yet rational way, and you help to change the story. And you do this over and over and over again, and then you begin to behave in ways that change the persona. So if you're telling this persona they're safe, then you do things that keep this persona safe, that nurture the persona, that give them the good life that you're promising them, that don't hurt them in ways they've been hurt in the past. Okay, so that's one way to do that. If you have, let's say for another example, you have a rebellious teenager persona who's filled with anger, rage, wants to go against authority in society. So you go to the part of you that learned this. When did you learn this? What happened to you at the time? You get some background in the story. Okay, and then you empathize. I understand how you feel. I know how difficult it was for you to have this experience. I can see where you got your conditioning from, your storyline from, your beliefs. In the past, your family or the society supported this by showing you this, but through a deeper, adult, compassionate, wise perspective. Is that really true? Do you really have to be rebellious? Do you really have to have so much anger? Or was there a greater lesson in this? Were you being shown how to love yourself unconditionally? Were you shown how to awaken to your potential? Or were you being shown how to be yourself and accept yourself through these challenges? So is there another storyline we can teach you? Can you instead be creative? Can you share your gifts with the world? Can you be your unique own person in a positive way? Can you have close bonds without being controlling? So talking with this persona, showing them that, perhaps these self-sabotaging behaviors, these belief systems don't serve you. The story just keeps repeating and repeating the old cycle, and it's just not true, and it makes you suffer. So speaking to this persona like you would an old friend and helping them over and over again to see how the story is no longer valid, no longer true, that you empathize with them, but that it is time to change, and then give them some healthy ways to express themselves instead. If you have a father or mother persona that takes on that archetypal energy. And if that persona is, let's say, imbued, if it's a father persona, it's imbued with more of this ruler mentality. You do it my way or the highway, very harsh, very cruel, very strong, overpowering, very critical. Now that is also learned, that might have been learned from someone in your childhood, and you want to protect yourself in that way. But is this bringing you happiness? Is this actually giving you more joy to be harsh and cruel, or is it disturbing you? Is it repeating your early childhood circumstances again? So is there another way of looking at this? What is another way to be a father? What is a way that we can have healthy boundaries but also be loving, open, vulnerable with our children? How can we have healthy boundaries for ourselves in our relationships as parents? So what is a different energy? How can we be a teacher? How can we be kind as a parent, yet still have strong boundaries that teach our children how to be of benefit to the world? So it's all about having these conversations. And it's basically committing to a long-term friendship between your higher self and these personas that have suffered, that have picked up their identities and behaviors from past traumas or difficulties, and you're trying to help them out of this. You have compassion, you have love, you have kindness, and you want them to change. Because then when you change, then they change in a powerful manner. And it's important to keep this process deep, but also keep it playful. So when you see a persona arise and all of a sudden you find yourself being super mad, or like yelling at your kids or yelling at your partner, just reflect, say the persona's name, and be like, I see you, but is this the best way to handle this, or did we discuss something different? And then just go to it without any shame, without any issues around that. So being playful with your personas, being kind, understanding it takes time to change, and allowing them to change. And when they do something positive, being that friend that says, hey, you're doing amazing, you're really transforming. So that's the persona work. And how to transform these ones. You can do this all day by talking to them. If it becomes too much and all they do is talk and try to push you into the old patterns, just say, okay, well, we will discuss this in journal later, and then don't respond to those toxic personas. Just be mindful of those voices, but you don't have to respond if it's getting out of control. The journal work is very effective. Choose a place, one persona every week, a place where you meet them, and write a conversation between your higher self and that persona. Another way is hypnosis, of course. This is the most powerful way to do persona work because it goes right to the subpsyche and it changes them at a much faster rate. So that's the fastest way to transform your personas and into the things you would like them to be. So with that in mind, the last one I would talk about is the shame persona, because the shame persona that is based in something you feel you did wrong or happened to you that made you feel unworthy, that made you feel broken, that made you feel damaged. This persona can damage all your attempts in life to have anything good, because it holds on to this idea that it's not good enough, that it always needs to lose something, that people always need to hurt it and betray this part of yourself. So this persona, the shame persona, needs an extraordinary amount of love. It needs awareness. It needs to be told over and over again, regardless of what happens to you, I love you. It is through you that I have come this far. You have shown me the deepest part of who I am. Thank you. Nothing can make you worth less. It can only help you grow. So really working to unravel the bonds of the shame persona. And that takes a lot of loving kindness and care and remaining and changing the constant story of the shame persona that they're not loved, that they're not good enough, and showing them that they are loved and they are good enough, and that they are not their behaviors and they are not their experiences. They are the powerful creative capacity to change. That's who they are. So you want to invite them into their power, to show them how they can catalyze anything they want through their suffering. They can catalyze change. So those are the major personas we usually have up. Every person has their own unique personas, and you surely will come to know yours more and more over time. So that's how we transform them. And know that each of them also have a shadow aspect, meaning that they have a part to them that has very negative behaviors, very self-sabotaging ways of being. These are the parts of you that sabotage your relationships and your happiness. So we want to understand our shadows, understand the parts of us that lay in the darkness, that have learned ways of being that are not healthy for us, and then learn to shine light on each of these behaviors and change them. So that's how we change the shadow aspects of personas. So we must recognize them. Another way to recognize the shadow aspect is obviously to look out into the world, and when we see someone that triggers us, that we cannot stand, we want to get away from, that aversion is a good sign of our own shadow. So which persona within us acts or thinks or behaves the same way? And that means that that's just a guide towards our inner work. So whenever we look outward and we don't like what we see, turn the mirror, look at it and say like, well, which persona within me has these characteristics and how can I change that? So that's a really brief introduction on transforming personas. Of course, it's a very involved process, but I think it's a great way for you guys to start. And of course, I'm here to support you and offer you love and kindness and feedback on this process. And I'm really excited for you guys. So please continue with the process, and I'm here to help you as you need it. So until next time, guys, which is going to be very exciting because we're on to the next half of our program. I'm going to teach you about conscious relationships and how to now use the power of your mind to manifest the relationship, the partner, the life you want. And that's going to be beautiful. So I'll see you guys next time.